I'm Julie Huntley from UI Inc. Welcome to our Behind the Pages series of interviews. Welcome, Daniel.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks for having me.
I've got a few questions for you, Daniel, particularly, and I guess you don't always have time to share much about your life and the journey that's led you to here. Can we go into that a little bit? And I want to know particularly, was there a particular incident or event or a moment that stirred the seeker in you?
There was not really one defining moment in the course of my life that, as you say, stirred the seeker. It was more like I was born with this innate quality of what's behind things, what's really going on. I spent a lot of my life observing, things on the surface, nature, clouds coming in, bringing rain, observing that we have this inner dialogue within ourselves, consciousness, coming across people that could, do interesting things like heal people. And there was always a part of me that was curious enough to go, well, how does that work? What's really going on there? Because going to school, I found school very boring, never went into the universe and how it worked. It was always maths or English, and it was very, 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 very drab for me. And so there's always been a searching for and a knowing that there's far more to this universe, far more to this reality than meets the eye. There's so much more generating it. What created it? Why do I have fingerprints? Who designed that? Or eyebrows or eyelashes? Who came up with that? Who designed the inner workings of the eye? And it didn't just happen by accident. This is serious intelligence going into the human form. And I was always very curious as to how things came to be. So it was just, I think, more like a program, kind of, if you like, on a DNA level that always spurred me to hunting and searching for the answers.
So how did that conflict then, Dan? You left school and you became a successful marketing executive. So it was quite a fast-paced and I would say perhaps an ego-filled existence. Did you have a lot of resistance in your life?
The irony, of course, is that the resistance was always to the spiritual, to what would bring me happiness, to what would bring me fulfillment. There was so many subconscious programming, if you like, beliefs at the subconscious level that were driving me towards achievement, driving me towards ambition and accomplishment, that whenever somebody mentioned, no, you just need to be still, you need to be present, or you need to connect to your soul or anything like that, it was like, later. When I'm accomplished, when I'm an accomplished millionaire, then I'll give myself time to look at that. And of course, the irony is that, the sequence is completely out. It's like when you become connected, when you become present and still, that's when you become on purpose, and that's when you can have those things that truly satisfy you. So the resistance, there was always, I guess, a prevalence of a tug of war in my life. It was an inner knowing, and it was very, very strong all the time. You're going in the wrong direction. Do not do that. That is going to hurt you. That's that pathway of ambition. Look at your body. Look how it's reacting to that. You're stressed. You've got hair falling out of your head. You've got anxiety attacks. Look at the evidence there. Seriously, obviously something's not right. But yet because they're subconscious beliefs, they're so powerful, it's almost like you don't have a choice. If you're not aware of exactly those beliefs, and least of all, if you're not aware how to shift them, they become your master and you the slave. So I was being compelled by these beliefs that that's what I need. If I'm to be whole, if I'm to be accepted, if I'm to be lovable and happy in life and fulfilled, I've got to pursue this. And that's the design of the beliefs, to propel you towards things that you believe that you're going to get something from, when ultimately the flip side is they're leading you up the garden path.
And I'm imagining that would have engendered a lot of anger and resistance to knowing that you were doing something that really didn't feel right, but you also didn't want to go the other way. You didn't want to go where you knew you were meant to go.
It was more sadness that created, because no matter what I tried, no matter the effort or the accomplishment, they were all still hollow victories. So that was still, all right, so I've got the girl that I thought I always wanted. I've got the career that I thought I always wanted. I've got the salary that I thought I always wanted. I'm getting the attention that I thought I always wanted. It's hollow.
So you were empty.
Yeah, there was still huge amounts of stress pumping through my veins. There was still the anxiety attacks. There was still the burning scalp and hair falling out. It's like, well, that's still going on. And you've got to pay attention to these things, that your body's a beautiful feedback loop as to whether you're on track or not. And I knew that, right? You know by the way you feel whether you're focused or your thoughts are on the right page. But I still had all those pains and anxieties through my body. I had immense pain throughout my hips and area. I could barely walk for many, many years. It was very, very painful. And so it was really the sadness and frustration of, something's missing still. I haven't nailed it.
So what did you do, Dan? Was there a defining moment where you thought, I just can't keep doing this?
Yeah, there were many of those defining moments, but there's still that stubbornness and the belief systems powering, or what we call the ego powering forward. Go, yes, I'm coming up empty-handed. Yes, everything hurts. Yes, life sucks. But I'm going to still pursue it because that's what society says brings happiness. If you've got the powerful career, which I had, if you've got the kind of relationship or the type of female that society deems you should have, well, I'm going to stick with it, damn it. And so there was many of those moments where I was coming up empty-handed, but still something defiant went, well, maybe I haven't quite got enough. Maybe if I have more of that, then I'll be happy. And eventually it got to the point where, you've got to pay attention. Nothing's working. There's nothing you're doing, no matter how successful, how accomplished, who's in your life, and it's still not paying off. And you're in so much pain and so unhappy. I remember that there was many of these, but there was times where it's like, all right, I'm listening. I'm ready to listen now.
And that's a pretty big defining moment. So
there was I think the ultimate defining moment was, when you say that, there was a moment I almost died. When I was in my early 20s, I was literally on my deathbed, and I had probably a few hours, and fortunately I had enough insight and help around me to show me what was happening. And that was a massive defining moment. So there was, I would say, whilst there were many defining, they were kind of progressive. They were amping up the intensity as things were going on. So, there was that. And then there was the point where I needed to sell my business because everything was stressed. And then it was ultimately when I met my wife, who showed me what, as cliche as this sounds, who showed me what happiness was. Because for the very first time, I was sitting in someone else's company and I was perfectly at ease.
You were happy to be yourself.
Yeah, I was absolutely content, relaxed, calm, when all my relationships with females had always been completely anxiety ridden. I'd been in a relationship for 2 years and I'm still having anxiety attacks. But for the very first time, I was in her presence and I was calm. And that was a very big alarm bell for me, going, okay, so who I've been pursuing, the ambitions, the ideals.
Maybe I was on the wrong track. Yeah. And do you think that really freed you up then, if you're starting to realise what real happiness was, that maybe it was okay to follow that rather than resist it?
Well, in a sense, I had no choice, because it was that or pain. It was in her presence and being myself in that way, the body was calm. There was no pain. There was no anxiety. I could breathe again. The pain in my hips had completely dissipated. So, in that moment, like, well, hang on a sec. In that space, everything's fine, everything's healthy. In the other space, I'm anxiety ridden and driven and running out of time and hectic and panicky. So I'm not going back there. Let's delve deeper. Let's see what's really going on here. And why is this the case?
So did you find then that once you'd actually started that, it was like a bit of a snowball effect?
It was a massive snowball effect because I had done a huge amount of kind of spiritual work and personal development work on myself since I was very, very young. I was very fortunate enough that my parents did a lot of personal development, and I fed me a lot of personal development books and tapes and CDs and all that stuff. So I was quite well grounded in it. But despite the years that I'd put in, it was really only when we came together, I had this beautiful mirror. And for the first time in my life, I had someone that accepted me wholeheartedly and supported me in a way I never supported myself. No matter what ideas I came up with, no matter what I said, it was like my own fan club. So I actually had someone who believed in me more than I believed in myself. And that was this beautiful mirror. Say, wait a minute, maybe you're not crazy. Maybe you're not stupid as you were taught in school. Maybe there's something more to you. She sees you as a genius. Maybe I am. Maybe there's something I don't know about myself because she seems to know it, and she's a very smart woman.
So Dan, how difficult was it then? And once you'd really started, on a completely different journey, and you'd met your wife, how difficult was it to leave all of that behind and live a more organic, much slower lifestyle?
It was very painful because as human beings, we have this almost innate attachment to possessions, to experiences, to people, to circumstances, to expectations that people have on us, to a particular reputation. And in that moment, you're confronted with, what am I going to have to lose or let go of to love myself, which is where I'm relaxed and happy? What's that going to mean? So there was kind of a lot of kicking and screaming along the way. It's like you're being dragged down a hallway and you've got your nails out, your feet out, and you're being dragged because those things that you're attached to them because you believe you need them. And as you look at them more deeply, you get to see that all they're doing is supporting misery. All they're doing is supporting failure and unhappiness. So the minute you can get that distinction, that realization that they're causing more pain than happiness, you're very quick to let them go. But until you look at them, because they're so subconscious, your mind just hears, but I need that. But I need that. That's intrinsically who I am. And without that, I'm nobody. But it's the opposite. It's with those things you're nobody.
And I guess it's like, that consumerism, especially, coming into the Industrial Revolution, the consumerism wasn't just for the elite, it became available to, I guess, the masses. And so we became a society that needed those things to define who we were. And so here were you looking at things going, well, do I really need that? And what have I lost? And what did you discover?
Well, the interesting thing is you're saying that you can get to see my life and many others very much mirrors our civilization, what we've gone through over time. And you get to discover that without knowing who we are, we cling to things outside of ourselves to yield a particular identity. And unfortunately, those things that we cling to aren't real. They're not who we are. And so until we realize who we are at our core essence, we're almost possessed to add more, to find more, to be seen as more, to have more people, because it's filling a void. If we inherently don't know our true nature, we look for it in other people, in other things. And that's what my life journey has been about, is being brought up into a school with very, very wealthy people. Not being wealthy, I'm missing something. Who am I? I'm not somebody without money. So my journey very much has mirrored what society is going through. And until I found myself and what I am at my core, which we talk much about in the book, until you reach that point, you're looking for everything to fill a hole.
So I guess it's like a manic collectorama.
Yeah, that's great. That's right. Like you're collecting stuff because
Yeah,
you're
it's
like,
manic. It's a manic state of
yeah, it is,
being.
and I really mean what I say when I use the word possessed, because there is that part of you that takes over and says, "Well, I need this person, I need this material possession, I need this job, I need this promotion," and it takes over all your senses, and you become a slave to that energy, to that kind of consciousness, and it's really only when people acquire those things that they start to realize, geez, this didn't really fill the hole. What's missing here? I'm still empty. What's going on?
Because I guess it's like that. Who am I without those things? And I guess it's like if you do make the shift, like you made the shift not to do your marketing anymore, you had to rediscover who you were without that experience, without that career.
Yeah, look, in a sense, it was a depressing phase because I had so many limiting beliefs saying who I wasn't, and I was making a transition into realizing who I was. There was this kind of chasm that I had to leap across, or more to the point, there was a chasm I had to be with and accept as I found myself realizing who I was. And that was the depressing bit, because making that leap, you're having to look at who you think you are, which a lot of people confuse as who they really are, but it's not. It's just who we think we are. And it's making that leap where you go, that's where the light of the tunnel is, at the end of the tunnel. That's who I really am. So it was a very depressing and disheartening transition, because you're going from who you think you were to seeing who you're worried you are to actually realizing who you truly are.
Yeah. I guess this is heartening for people to hear this side of it. I know it was a painful period in your life, Dan, but it's actually, you look at the book and you seem so accomplished and you're very connected and there's a lot of love around you. And you would look at that and go, well, how did Dan get here? And to hear that part of your story, it's actually might make people think, actually, yeah, I can do that too.
Well, the irony, of course, Julie, is, which is something we only discovered, on the other side of this transition, is that we're all internal, very self-sufficient beings. We have an immense resource available to us that when we learn to tap into that, we actually don't need all these things that we think we need. It's like we have our own best friend, our best coach, our best mentor, an enlightened Buddha within us. And I mean that quite literally. And when you learn to tap into that, you start realizing that, I didn't need that person's love. I didn't need that person's support. I didn't need to be told I was smart. I didn't need that new Porsche. I didn't need any of those things because you have that internal guide that actually says what's true. And the beauty is that that's what the book's about. The book is teaching people not only the existence of that, but how to connect to that. And that's really the magic of this book is, that it can be quick, it can be fast, and it can be accessed quite easily. But you need to trust, once you've connected, you need to trust that it's there, that it's real, and it's there for you.
And also what's coming through. And obviously the All-Knowing Diary didn't come through fully formed, I guess. It came as a period of experiences. How did you actually feel when you realised, I really should make this a book, my thoughts and what you'd been working on?
Well, the information that's in the book has been coming to me for some time. It's been taught in our courses. It's been shared with people in presentations or mentoring sessions. The book really came through as the next step along my purpose, if you like. Inspiration, or once you're connected, is just there. You wake up in the morning and you're like, all right, what am I going to do today? You're going to write a book. Okay, I'll write a book.
So I guess that's really, you're living what's in your book and what you've been teaching, because, if I were to ask you, Dan, what's your purpose? What's your life purpose? I mean, you talk about that in the book, but you're living your life's purpose, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can't acquire these capabilities that we talk about without walking the talk. It's not physically possible. If you're not living this, you can't pretend, you can't be a fraud. None of these capabilities are for those who are in denial or lying to themselves, or are still completely cloaked by their ego, their limiting beliefs. You just don't have access to them. And this is why it's so revolutionary, some of these capabilities, because as a society, as a civilization, we've been entrenched in our limiting beliefs and buying into that reality that we haven't been able to draw on these abilities. So they seem supersensory or unbelievable, but they're completely innate. So yeah, everything that's in that book has come about because of some form of hardship in our life, that we've come up against some brick wall and gone, okay, why is this experience still happening? So we've had to go into our, at the soul level or at the subconscious level and go, well, what's the belief system creating this as a reality? And let's shift it. And every layer of limiting belief that you shift, new information becomes available. And the deeper you go and the more layers you clear, more capabilities become available. Because at the end of the day, the reality that we're experiencing as an individual, as a collective society, is dictated by what we believe at the subconscious level, not what we believe at the conscious level. We can believe all these things until we're blue in the face. But until your subconscious has that complete realization, embraces it on every level, these things are just fantasy. And that's what we've gone through. We've gone through a lot of hardship, so hopefully many others don't have to go through the same.
Oh, that's fantastic, Dan. Dan, if you could choose only one outcome that you want people to get from reading the All-Knowing Diary, what would it be?
It's that they get connected to their all-knowing self, and that all their decisions come from that space. The reason we as human beings struggle within ourselves, as a family, and as a society is because most of our decisions are coming from the beliefs we're holding at the subconscious level, beliefs we hold about ourselves, and it's not the truth. So our beliefs are mirroring the truth, the opposite of the truth. So our decisions are coming from the opposite space of what's real, which is why we're experiencing so much of the turmoil that we are on this planet. It's why we're sacrificing trees, life-giving trees, for money, why we're poisoning the air that we breathe. Like, you look at that. These are opposite behaviors. These aren't behaviors of intelligent beings. And it's because our beliefs are holding money and material acquisitions as a greater priority than the survival of our species or the enlightenment of our species. So the ultimate intention of this book is get connected to your all-knowing self, access the intelligence that we're all born to access, and have all your decisions come from that space.
So you're saying then that really, if we're listening to our own intuition, we can make a profound impact on the planet.
Without a doubt, we can have everything we've always wanted, from world peace to happy, fulfilled beings, to eliminating illness and disease out of our life. I realize these sound idealistic, but they're only present because we're accessing this tiny part of our brain. And it makes sense. We're only accessing this 3 to 5% of our brain. Surely things aren't going to work out. But when we actually use our brain to its truest capability, what we call whole brain intelligence, where you begin to integrate not only your ultimate intelligence surrounding us, innate with us and a part of us, we start actually making clever decisions. We no longer create cancer in our body. We no longer go to war as a way to remedy a conflict. We no longer poison the air that we breathe, and we sure as hell no longer cut down trees that give us oxygen. We don't do those things.
So if we're individually nurturing ourselves, then it means we're nurturing everything.
Yeah, but we're at a point where not only do we need to focus on nurturing ourselves, we need to start nurturing the masses. We need to be putting this intelligence, this wisdom into schools, into governments, into leadership. If we have enlightened leaders, we will create an enlightened planet.
So I guess this is another reason for the book too, Dan. I mean, I know in one sense, you feel that's what you needed to do. It's on your life path, but it also has a bigger impact for the world.
My ultimate purpose is to spread the awareness and the capability of all knowing to as much as humanity as possible, whether that's me directly or other people like me in similar positions. That's why I'm here. It's without that capability, or especially the awareness of that capability, that we're still going to persist on destroying ourselves. Human beings believe it's in our nature to be destructive, but that couldn't be further from the truth. If you look to nature, you will see that nature is life-giving, nurturing, and magnificent. Well, we're born of nature, so nature is our nature. It's only when we're disconnected from our nature we become self-destructive. So once again, it's the opposite. It's by being disconnected from our nature, from not knowing who we truly are, that we seek to destroy ourselves, destroy our planet, mirroring destroying ourselves. And all these destructive behaviors are coming from not being connected to our all-knowing self. Because unless we're connected to our all-knowing self, we do not know who we really are. So we look for reference points, and all these reference points are false, leading us up the garden path. When we do become connected to our all-knowing self, we see what's true and what's false, and we no longer need to cling to all these things and all these people, belongings, careers and ambitions that are actually sabotaging our development.
And so what would you suggest as a first step into really knowing who you are and getting more connected?
Read the book.
Read the book.
Read the book.
Fantastic, Dan. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Daniel, once you started writing the All-Knowing Diary, how long did it take, and were there any hiccups along the way?
The process took about 3 months all up. It was rather a heavy-going process for many reasons, the biggest being that I had to shift a lot within myself to put it in a way that people could embrace it, the information. We've been living this stuff for years, and we've been utilising these capabilities for a long time, and we've taught hundreds of people how to do this. But being able to articulate it in a way where people get the significance and the profound value of allowing this into their life, that was where some of the roadblocks were. Until you experience this all-knowing capability, whether directly or via one of our all-knowing mentors, or in a course, or in a session, it's hard to really gauge the profundity of what's actually just taken place. And that was always the challenge, kind of the conversation in the background. Is this going to land the way it needs to? That was really the biggest roadblock. But the beauty is when you're not thinking, when you're just allowing the information to come, which is exactly what we teach, and you get out of the way of the process, it's a very gentle kind of meditative process where information just comes. You ask questions, information comes. And so it was a real beautiful, rewarding process. Very much looking forward to the next one, to the All-Knowing Diary Part 2.
Well, that was my next question. How did you know? You're just so clever, Daniel. So when is the next book?
People can expect that probably midway through 2012, midway through the next year. Quite a few new surprises there, a lot of new insights and revelations, but I won't give too much more away. There are a few more secret pages in that one too.
That's what I loved about the book, is that there was a secret pages section, like a sealed section at the back of the book. And it's definitely worth waiting for. I loved your book, Dan. I just want you to know. And I've got another question. You're talking about how important it was for you to connect with yourself and get through some of those little hiccups along the way. Are you saying then that intuition, connecting to our intuition, is one of the most important things we can do?
I would say, rather than it is one of the most important things, I'd say it is the most important thing. Your intuition, unbeknownst to many, is your soul guidance. It's the all-knowing within navigating you towards greener pastures, to fulfilling experiences. And if you fail to listen or act on that, you're ignoring the ultimate intelligence in the universe and taking it upon yourself to direct and steer your life in a way that you feel is right. And it's like having the world's greatest genius on hand and going, no, I'll rather listen to this chimpanzee over here. And so it's like, no offense to anyone calling them a chimpanzee, but really the knowledge and intelligence we have available to us from this lifetime pales in comparison to what's available through our soul intelligence, our higher self intelligence, this all-knowing intelligence. So to ignore your intuition, to me, is the ultimate definition of insanity.
So what you're saying, Dan, is to grab a copy of your book because it's fabulous, and you too will be able to tune into your all-knowing universal intelligence.
Yeah, look, grab 100 copies. We need to get this message out to the world. The more people that are accessing all-knowing, their own soul intelligence around the world, the faster this world evolves, the smarter the decisions that get made, the happier everyone is and the healthier everyone is. So, grab as many copies as you can and get them to people that make a difference on this planet. And let's start shifting the intelligence of this world so this world's a better place for everyone.
So let's start the ripple effect today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Daniel.
You're welcome, Julie.